Welcome back, fans. Once again, it's time to break down all the action this week that happened in the FCL. We've had some great matchups, and we've got a great panel to talk about all of it, including our very own real live Cannibal, from Cannibal Video, that is. We've got all the regular hosts here. CB's here, Ryan's here, Keith is here, and of course, I am the Elk. Let's talk about it. Two great matches. In our first match, we have Just Daggers bringing the knives out and trying to take it to the max. Will he take the victory? We'll be talking to him directly about the matchup. And in the main event of the FCL, we have, that's right, it's one member of the Addams family taking on the person who made the album Capital Punishment, Big Pun. No, it's Elena, the Punisher. Some great jokes, some great action, and we're going to talk about every single thing right now on This Week in the FCL. And here we are, guys. Welcome. Thank you once again for joining us. Remember to do all that social media stuff. Hit those buttons. But let's get right on into it. Obviously, as always, we're joined by our super producer, Chris Barnes. Hello, Chris.
How you all doing, guys?
I'm doing great. We've got the man with the gift of gab. That's right, future FCL competitor for sure, Mr. Ryan Permason.
Hello, everyone. Good to be back. Good to be here.
And the stats man himself. No, not Frank Janish, our very own Keith Kilduff.
Pleasure to be here, as always, gentlemen. Pleasure to be here.
And we are joined by a very special guest, as mentioned, of Cannibal Video. He is an FCL competitor. He's in one of those matches we're going to be talking about this week, and we are so pleased to be joined by Mr. No, he said not Mr. Just Daggers is joining us. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, it is a thrill to have you here. And of course, you were involved in one of the great matchups this week on the FCL. We got some amazing action in both of our matches, and we're glad to have you here to discuss your match as well as the main event, what you thought of them, maybe some behind the scenes stuff. And I'm thrilled to just get right on into it. So let's go ahead and start talking about it with you, Mr. Daggers. Sorry, Just Daggers. I will get that right. I promise you I will. Let's talk about the news of this week in the FCL first. Let's get a few things out of the way because there's a lot going on this week. First and foremost, what I want to talk about the most is what you want to talk about. We know what the FCL is. It's movie trivia, but more than that, it's a place where young talent can be shaped and molded and grow into the Schmoedown competitors of the future. And the first step on that road, free agency. It's open, they're looking, and there might even be a big spot open on one of those Schmoedown teams. Who might take that spot? Keith, I'm thrilled to talk about this. What do you think?
I think this is so interesting to kind of get into because there's so many different layers to this in my opinion. So yes, Andrejko has unfortunately retired. The Stars have a spot open. And I know Andrew, he holds a special place in your heart right next to Andrew Furtado. But yes, there is a space open. But I think the bigger question that we need to ask is there a need for that space to be filled? Because let's think about it. There's an 8-person Star Wars tournament. Roxy has Damon and Burkett. There is a 8-person Inner Geekdom tournament. She has Damon. She has Hannah. There's a 8-team tournament. More than likely, based on last week, she's going to put in Snyder and Janine again. And there's a 16-person singles tournament, which again, you would imagine that she's going to go with Snyder and Janine. So is there a need for her to pick up anyone in this free agency when, based on what I've just said in the last 30 seconds, I think she's covered off? CB, what do you think?
I think you're right. I think she's covered, and she's got a decent squad there to back up any kind of competition they need to go into, whether it's Star Wars in the Geekdom or singles or teams. But at the same time, I kind of think, why wouldn't you? We've seen there's some top players down here in the FCL that I think are probably ready to be up there anyway. So would you take the risk? I think I would, especially looking at people like Nick Harley and Kofi Outlaw going for that title belt already anyway, as well as late to the party guys, Montano and Vanessa, have both been very, very strong in the FCL. So I think you'll just take them, just take one anyway, stick them in one of the tournaments, pair them up with someone else, maybe if you can. But I think you should, but I do take your point. Do you need to? I don't think Roxy really needs to.
I suppose it's not just Roxy. Also, like all managers are kind of on the deck at the moment. Like they could drop someone, they could bring somebody in. Ryan, at this stage,
at this stage, I think everybody's covered. Everybody's fine. There's too much going on in the FCL. There's too much going on in the MTS itself. So, yeah, there may be a spot open, but just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to be fine. You got enough competitors to fill a couple of slots here and there. So, just let the season continue on as it is, because the FCL is still quite young. So give it a few months, see what happens later on.
And we're all just internet pundits talking about this, so you probably don't want to hear our opinion, but I would be fascinated to hear what one of the own FCL competitors, one of the actual competitors who are on this free agency list who might be drafted, has to say about this. Have you just been fielding texts from all the managers left and right, Daggers?
I couldn't tell you who any of the managers are, so maybe I've gotten a lot of messages over the last couple of weeks from people, but no one's saying anything about joining teams, this, that. I don't really know enough of the people in the game. I've only seen a couple of matches here and there. The guy with the I don't watch movies gimmick, I liked watching him. I thought that was pretty good. I like the guy with the what's his name, something Knight. I thought his little shtick is kind of fun. But aside from the two of them, I really don't know anybody in the FCL aside from Maxwell, and I don't really care to see more of him.
Fair enough. What do you think, Andrew? You posed the question to the group, so let's give your opinion as well. What do you think of it all?
I mean, you guys are covering a lot of ground there. I think my opinion is a little bit similar to Chris's, maybe with a slight variation. I think potentially, if Roxy is looking to fill spaces, and I know I'm staying on Roxy as opposed to other managers. I could see someone else dropping a spot if they feel there's a gap that they can fill. I just don't know if we're deep enough in the season for anyone to do that. So I'm going to stay with Roxy, who has that open spot and might want to fill it. And you listed all the different tournaments. And Roxy, you're right. The stars are very stacked in Star Wars. They're very stacked in IG. They've got a great team to lead the way in the teams tournament. But here's the thing where I think you might be missing out and then just slightly off is that 16-person singles tournament. You said probably Jeff and Janine. And while I don't disagree, both great competitors, both would do great things, Jeff is working every day in Hollywood. We know occasionally Jeff Snyder has had trouble making matches for scheduling reasons. Maybe Roxy will factor that in and consider it. Maybe he's already booked up for the teams tournament with Janine, and maybe she needs another spot in singles. And if so, I think there's a handful of competitors, including people like Robert Montano, people like Nick Harley or David Campbell or Andrew Furtado. These are people who could really fill a good spot and do okay in singles for Roxy. I would love to see someone make their way up. And much like Chris said, fill that spot. Why not? Just put somebody in there. If you have to drop them back down to the FCL, I think most of the competitors at this point would understand if something else happened, Andreyko comes back, or any other hypothetical scenario where you have to drop back down. But she's got the open spot. May as well use it. Lock up a talent and keep them away from everybody else. Maybe think about using them to trade with someone else mid-season if someone else is looking to fill a spot. If I'm Roxy, I'm looking for a competitor potentially to come up, to take that spot, and to be something that I can use to advance the Stars agenda later in the year. But, of course, she's a manager in the Schmoedown. I'm just a schlub on the internet. What do I know?
If I can actually just play devil's advocate for a second and come at this from a competitor point of view within the FCL and just anyone else who's on the free agency, Ryan, I'll come to you at this point. Am I better off sticking out a full season of the FCL and get like a 5-1, 5-2 record, and then for next year's draft be in a better position to be picked up? Or does my record now be enough to then maybe sit on the bench for the rest of the season, if that makes sense?
Well, I would say, for a competitor, just keep getting your feet wet, get as many matches within the FCL as you can, and then if someone from the MTS wants to call you up, that's up to them.
That's fair. What do you think, CB?
I think if someone reaches out and calls out to you to come up to the MTS, I think you've got to just take it, haven't you? You've got to take that risk that you could potentially get put in one of these tournaments and flourish, and that's it. You're set then. You're there in you're in the Schmoedown, a bit like Adam Collins come in mid-season and just demolished the whole thing, didn't he? So I wouldn't, if the opportunity is there for you, for me, I would take it and just go for it. I do understand the flip side of the coin that, would you be better having a year under your belt, just a year of experience of competing in the FCL beforehand? But I don't know, you've got to be what's the word I'm thinking of? Not motivated. You've got to be ambitious enough that if someone and confident in your own ability enough that if a manager wants you, just take that opportunity and then go there and, like I said, take that opportunity, make the big moves, get yourself in the tournament and prove yourself. Prove you're supposed to be where you want to be. Because at the end of the day, all these FCL competitors, well, not all of them, but 90% of these competitors were on that draft list. They wanted to be in the Schmoedown. That's where they all wanted to be, So you don't turn your nose. If someone offers you a chance to go and be there, don't turn your nose up at it.
That's fair.
You don't turn down, the NBA to play in college. That just seems obvious here. If you get invited to the big show, go to the big show.
Exactly.
I agree completely, and I think you are right about that, Chris. I think it comes down to fear versus opportunity. I think a player who gets drafted needs to take that spot immediately and do everything they can with it. And the real reason why is because you're minimizing your fear and you're maximizing your opportunity. You take that spot, and you might be able to impress everybody out there with everything that you know. Maybe your character will shine in a matchup with one of these Schmoedown competitors. And here's the thing. If I am 3-0 in the FCL and I get drafted and then I lose a couple of undercard matches to players who are in that mid-range of the Schmoedown, the people who've been there for years, they know what they're doing. They've done this for a long time. I at least can say when people ask me about it, hey, they're seasoned competitors. I'm just getting my feet wet. I have a built-in excuse. I can say it wasn't my fault that I lost, even if I get knocked back down. But if I'm 3-0 and I pass up that draft and then I lose my next two matches, I've lost the opportunity entirely. I think people might not take the draft because they're afraid of embarrassing themselves when they get there. But what they should be afraid of is not taking it and embarrassing themselves here and never moving on. But again, just my opinion.
It's a good point. Would you rather be a has-been or never was? It's very simple.
There's definitely so many layers in this. We've already kind of come up with 6 different kind of thought processes on whether you go or not and why you do and don't.
Always just do things.
Yeah.
That's
a great motto for life, I think, Daggers.
Never be worried if you're qualified. If someone is offering you something, it means you are qualified. At least whoever's offering you. So there you go.
That's right. Fake it until you make it, and then keep faking it after you get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
I mean, I think that covers a lot about the potential of someone getting drafted. And obviously, we're very excited to see our FCL competitors grow and become more in the movie trivia verse that we all love out there. So we'll see what happens with the draft. Obviously, all of us would love to see the talent stay here in the FCL and give us some amazing matchups, much like the matchups we had this week. And we've got a great guy to talk about our first matchup with for sure. Because, hey, Daggers, you were in this one.
I was there, yeah.
I think let's get into it, guys. Let's get into the recaps of Week 10 in the FCL. FCL 10 has been and gone as 4 more competitors made their debut, one of which is on screen joining us today. Let's move into the first match, Maxwell Haddad versus Just Daggers himself. Promos came in. Daggers, I really loved getting the 360 view of your shop, of your setup, like the little digs that you got at Haddad about the fact that he followed you on Twitter. Obviously, he was snooping for some information on you. Did you know much about Maxwell coming into this match, if you don't mind me asking?
I didn't know a thing about him, no. I had done some, what the hell is it, spin from the real show the day before, and they were just telling me, oh, this guy does nothing but study and this and that, and I'm hearing good things from his review sessions, and I'm like, review sessions? Okay. But other than that, just saw his picture, and I was like, I feel in my head, I was like, that photo that he used, I'm like, that seems like a strategy, because he looked kind of like a schlub, and I'm like, all right. I don't think, and then you meet him and he's very like, haha, I'm dressed like a magician. So I think that was a tactic, or he just had only one picture on his computer at the time. I don't know, but my thought going into it, that was all I had. And then I get to see his promo video for they put it out on Twitter the day before, and I'm like, okay. I wasn't very worried by the promo video because, saying, I'm from the theater, but I have a film background and I don't know how audio works, so I'm not going to film this again. There's wind in my shot. I was like, okay, I think I'm going to do fine. And, he did better than I did. Spoilers.
He did. Listen, let's get into round one. It ends 9-3 to him. Perfect round for Haddad. It is the 10th perfect 9 for 9 of the season so far. Of the 10, both late to the party, Vanessa and Robert have 2 of those each. So really, it's only 8 people that have hit 9 for 9 this season. To be fair, we have spoken off camera just before we went live on air to record this, and we do feel that this has been one of the hardest round ones of the season so far. We're not just saying that because you're on Daggers, don't worry. But listen, I think new releases, mystery, thriller, and crime movies came into round one for the first time this season. New releases, given where we've been with COVID the last year or so, you could get Tenant, you could get Trolls World Tour, and you unfortunately got The Midnight Sky. So that's fair enough, I think, for a question. You missed that one.
I wasn't familiar with that movie at all.
Dude,
so I was like, okay.
You were the only one.
What's that all?
No one was.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh great, my first question. Good. Look like an idiot.
Off to a good start, guys.
Yeah. To be fair, though, you take it well on the chin. You missed the second one, unfortunately, as well. The directors of Dead Poet Society.
That one I was
Society,
like,
true.
Directors ones are going to be a hit or miss with me, and that one was a miss.
So you're 0-2. You rally in the third one, the comedies, the Agent H and MIB International, Chris Hemsworth. Use repeat. Good use of strategy, making sure, giving yourself that little bit of extra time, getting there. It obviously was there, but just you needed that little bit extra time.
What makes it so much harder, and I've only seen a few episodes of the show, is that you see it. I feel like it's on the screen for so long that you can really read it. Aside from I had my screen really small so that I was trying to look my camera's over here. I wanted it to be a little bit better. So the screen already I had minimized to be in a better zone for me to see. And then it's only on screen for a second. And I was like, I couldn't read it. And I was paying more attention to trying to read it than I was listening to it. And I was like, what did they even say? I don't know. Repeat that shit. I need to hear it.
But listen, you take the repeat, you do get the point, so you're on the board, which is the main thing. Listen, get rid of the O. And the next two, I think, listen, you missed both of them, but I think they're quite unfortunate misses. Movie release dates, The Black Swan, The Toy Story 3, 2010 is the answer. You said 2011. Yeah, I mean, we've been saying for weeks these movie release dates, everyone is out by a year, and that there is absolutely no science at all to trying to learn how to get these at all. So I wouldn't be beating yourself up about that. I think the fantasy sci-fi one, the 2000s film, Samuel Jackson, Bruce Willis, David Dunn.
That was my mistake completely. I wrote it, and I was even I'm like this is Mark Wahlberg's one. It's not the same movie. There's different titles, and I threw it up there, and right before Max threw his up, I'm like, fuck, it's Unbreakable. I knew, and then he shows Unbreakable, and I'm like, god damn it.
Yeah. So there's two that could be easily gotten back on.
Oh, that one's my fault completely. The other ones I'll be like, I didn't know those. That one I love that movie. It wasn't there at the moment.
And that's fair enough. Listen, it's something that you can take on for your next match. And so then we move into the last three of the round. The 1970s, which is the 76 movie with Redford and Dustin Hoffman as journalist, All the President's Men. You missed that one, unfortunately. And then you get the last two, to be fair. The mystery thriller, again, a new category in round one. The 2000s Chris Nolan, Guy Pearce movie. And then it ends with crime movies, Who Plays Tony Montana in 83's Scarface, which is Al Pacino. Haddad gets all 8, gets his bonus, which is Who Composed Back to the Future. 9-3. Andrew, where do we go from here?
Well, I mean, we've got a rough first round. I'm not going to sugarcoat it just because you're here, Daggers. You did not have the best showing in this first round, and that's fine. I have experience being in front of the camera and looking like an idiot in a movie trivia matchup. Let me tell you, I've done it before. It's not fun, and you can get behind. I think you handled yourself very well. You maintained a good composure, and you're having a lot of fun with it. A lot of players would get rattled with a first round like this. But that's not the only thing I want to talk about, because in this matchup, I could talk about the personalities. I could talk about what questions you guys did and didn't get. But I think, Keith, for the rest of this match breakdown, I will be talking about the one and the only thing that anybody is going to care about. That's right, men's outerwear fashion. We've got the vest on Daggers, looking gorgeous. He's wearing it right now, and I just can't look away. It's bright. It's colorful. It's got everything going on. And Maxwell showing up in Well, it's a jacket. Let's just say that. It is definitely a jacket. Roses all over. Everybody's putting on their best for the FCL, and I am here for it. Let's have people show up in even more outlandish, high fashion. I want to see a runway coming onto the screen next time a match starts up, because I want to see everybody dressed like they're going to a party with lots of cocaine in the 80s. That's what I want to see in the FCL. I know you do too. And you could disagree with me, but everyone will know you are lying.
I think, CB, if you want to make a note on YouTube just to put that this video is not for kids, I think that might be a good note to take.
I've just written that down. Yeah.
Ryan, as a guy who's looking to get into the FCL, how'd you get on round one?
Yeah, no, I probably would have done 6 for 8, if not maybe 5, because I definitely would not. I know it's Woodward and Bernstein, but I was thinking of like Watergate is the name of that movie, not All the President's Men. So I definitely not have gotten that one. That movie is way above my pay grade. Sorry, Robert Redford. And then door number 2 with, Bat Nipples, George Clooney in a movie that no one's ever heard of, The Midnight Sky, whatever the frack that was. I'm thinking, what? New releases. What are you doing to me? So yeah, those 2 questions for sure I would not have gotten. So Just Daggers, you're not alone in this department. Respectfully, I might add. So yeah, I probably would have gone 5, maybe 6 for 8 during the course of round 1, but it was tough. Let's not sugarcoat it. It was tough for you, Just Daggers, but you got through it, man. That's what matters.
CB, we're moving into round 2, so we are, and wheel comes up again. We're talking a lot week on week about how this wheel is being made up, how competitors can maybe like double guess what's going to come, if at all possible. So we're getting Pixar, Kevin Smith, 90s, Francis McDormand, Black Cinema, Paul Thomas Anderson, Anne Hathaway, movie quotes, Superman, and sports. I had Haddad kind of down as kind of like a musicals, dance movies kind of guy. So I'm wondering maybe if like Anne Hathaway could have been a strength of his. Daggers, you don't need to tell us who your strength was, just to kind of keep all that safe for next time. But I think, listen, you get the shout gets to be deferred to you. You spin Kevin Smith, go 8 for 8, Chasing Amy with Jason Lee, Ben Affleck, Bruce Willis, Tracy Morgan, Cop Out, the 2019 Kevin Smith movie, the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and the state that Clerks is in, New Jersey. I believe, as a Jersey man yourself, I'd say you would have had to leave if you got that one wrong.
It would have been brutal. It was so funny too, because the day before I'm on another show, and someone casually brought up Kevin Smith. They're like, "Do you know Kevin Smith?" I'm like, I'm familiar. I'm from New Jersey. I should know something about the man. And then when it came up, I was like, "Oh man, if I don't get this, it's going to be embarrassing."
Chris, I brought up a kind of a new reference, a new sporting reference for the guys last week, this idea of holding your throw on your spin. Daggers does this 8 for 8 in Kevin Smith. What were your thoughts on the wheel makeup and Daggers round?
It was a solid wheel makeup. I can't remember. Well, I do remember the reference of hold your throw, but I'm not a cricket fan, so I don't know what it means at all. It's probably sacrilege as an Englishman. I don't like cricket. I hate it, but I haven't got a clue. But fair enough, whatever. But no, it was a solid wheel makeup, and I put you as correct in my feelings of the wheel with what I thought Maxwell's strengths may have been with like the Anne Hathaway or the musical thing. But what I want to say with the obviously Daggers did very well with Kevin Smith, as he should, we've just alluded to there. But it was I don't know. It's for me. I felt strange. Like these were all 2-point questions, right? Unless you go multiple choice. But I felt like, as you guys alluded to in the first round, that was a tricky first round. These
round
questions
to me
were
easier than round 1.
A lot. They were a lot easier, even for me, because I am, as these guys all know, terrible at movie trivia. Not terrible at movie trivia. I'm terrible at the recall of getting stuff back in my mind quick enough to answer the question. And I had no hope in that first round at all. I was just sat there going, I haven't got a clue. But I mean, I don't think anyone knew that George Clooney movie, but I definitely didn't. But this one's, I smashed them out. And I wanted a quick question, like, when you get to a category like Kevin Smith, a question to all of you guys, really. I think when you get like a director, like you go for it, don't you? Especially a director who's not got much of a filmography anyway. He's not done loads of movies. Especially it was the cop-out question, like that kind of question. Obviously, it's specific for that movie, but even if you hadn't seen that movie, which I haven't seen Cop Out, I knew the answer to that question because it was definitely not going to be any Well, I mean, what was the question again, Keith? Do you
There's
remember?
a finite pool to draw from. Which
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
have
do you know
thought
what I
they
mean?
would have picked things that he acted in but didn't direct to try to
Yeah.
throw you off. But like, what
maybe,
was
yeah,
his
yeah.
name in Die Hard? Like something like
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
more what I was
Yeah.
expecting.
Yeah, because
but
I can't
I'm not going to
remember.
complain for easy questions when they're mine.
So I can't remember what the question was now, but I remember just at the time thinking, well, it's not going to be any of the Jalen and Silent Bob movies or any of those movies. It's obviously whatever. I can't remember what the question is. So I thought, well, it's Cop. I know he directed Cop Out, so it must be that one. So, I think it's a smart move going for a single director category anyway, in general, and especially when you get one like a Kevin Smith, when it's his filmography isn't massive. He's not done a lot, and as Just Daggers says, it doesn't go into his acting as well. So no, I that's all I've got to say about it, really, to be honest. So yeah, carry on. I'm rambling.
It's funny because I think this is the third time that Kevin Smith has been taken in the league this season. So you would think that the more that the category is getting hit, the harder it's going to get. But obviously, listen, the question writers, they're still kind of developing out the categories as we go. But listen, 8 for 8, boom, you're back in the game. Comes back to Haddad, first spinner's choice. He's kind of hemming and hawing about what he's going to take. You weren't the only one in the chat who was saying that as well, to be fair. We were very much
I was like, there goes my lead. The guy can pick whatever he wants. Oh.
Andrew, I want to come to you. So Haddad picks Paul Thomas Anderson, but he makes the point that it's not the slice that he's actually put on the wheel. Do you think that's just gamesmanship, trying to throw people off in the future, or do you think that this is what he put on and he's just kind of making a show of himself?
He's full of shit. That was his category.
To be honest with you, when I was watching this and I was seeing what he was doing, as well as some of the things that I saw from Maxwell before this, obviously Keith, Ryan, CB, we've all been following the league. We've all been occasionally in the live chats there while we're watching the FCL. And Maxwell Haddad has been not afraid to talk a lot. Talk about how good he is. Talk about how little he misses. Every single time I'm watching the FCL live, it seems like in that chat room, there's Maxwell going 8 for 8 in round number 1, going 8 for 8 in round number 2, going 10 for 10 in round number 3. It seems like, according to him, just posting numbers in a chat room, he never misses a question. Of course, he missed a question in his round number 2. Surprise, surprise, you're finally under the lights and something happens. And he's talking a lot of trash to you, Daggers, even during this round. You handled yourself beautifully. After a tough first round, like I said, a lot of competitors will fall apart. They'll get in their own head. They'll have trouble answering. You got all yours right, easy or hard. Yeah, sure, they're not asking a question about Timothy Oliphant and Jennifer Garner and Catch and Release, where Kevin Smith played the best friend. You're welcome, competitors.
His name was Sam.
That's correct. And you would have known that one. So it's a good category. It's well handled. And Haddad he's playing it up. He's having a lot of fun. But when you're in the lead, that's easy to do. And I think the best thing you can do is stay calm, continue to have a good time yourself, and come back strong. And that's what Daggers did in this round. So, I mean, good round for Daggers. Still a tough position to be in because you're coming out of round 2. You're still behind. And we all know round 3, that's where it's all going to happen. You're going to get hit with those big, tough questions. As much as we can talk about the difficulty of the questions, and yes, we know they're all subjective. When we say it was a hard first round, we all just think that together as a group. Don't add us on Twitter, or do. We would love that. I think great round here from, I think both competitors handled well. And to your question, Keith, if I had to guess whether Maxwell is telling the truth because he wants people to be aware that that's not a category that he would put on a wheel, or if he's just playing around to try and get people to give it to him later, I don't think it matters. I think at this point he can do whatever he wants, but it's a bad move if you're trying to get a specific response out of it, because if someone's thinking like you are, Keith, that it could be either one, you don't know what they're going to do. So where the play is, I don't know.
So listen, he takes PTA and goes 6 of 8, crushes his first 3, the 97 Mark Wahlberg Boogie Nights, 96 Crime Debut, Hard 8, and the how many films has Joaquin Phoenix worked with him? 2. 6 for 2. Boom, lovely. Moving along. Then comes the fourth question of the round. How many times has he been nominated for Best Original Screenplay? Goes to multiple choice, says 3. That's wrong. Daggers, you smash in, say 2, take the 1 point steal. And I know, Chris, you had a point that you wanted to raise about the 1 point steal and kind of the value of that in terms of the overall scoring.
Yeah, well, it's obviously no disrespect to our guests on the show, but going into that second round, I was thinking you know, even with just I guess going perfect, I was thinking it's going to be a tall order for this to be turned around in any kind of way, because that first round was
Shitty.
horrific. It was horrific. It was pretty bad. So, but it's just the value of that. But that one steal, that it just changed that reflection. It only stole 1 point, but it just changed the whole reflection of the game. When we went into that second round, thinking, you know, this isn't that big of a gap there now, and this literally could. Because I know I was kind of quietly in the chat, just throwing up the old dagger emoji, just like showing my support. You know, everyone else was supporting. Everyone else was supporting Maxwell. I thought, well, someone's got to support the other guys, so that'll be.
Can't imagine why he's popular.
Yeah. I thought that could be me, and so when it got into that third round, after you got that big steal, I was like, you know, he could do this, and this could happen, and it seems like Daggers yourself, you seem to know the harder questions, apparent harder questions, more than the easy ones, the 1 pointers at the first round. So it's just amazing for me how like, it's only a 1 point steal with that bigger gap, but it just made it look that much closer and made it actually a real fight going into that third round.
Yeah, it turned a 6 point gap into a 3 point just by a 1 point steal. Ryan, this fourth question that we're kind of talking about, these are the kind of questions that we want to kind of see in the second round from the FCL moving into. I think that these little bit more trickier questions, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And in regards to what was it? Paul Thomas Anderson was the category. Yeah, I would not have gotten any of that. I get Paul and Wes Anderson so mixed up every single time a question from either one of those directors comes my way when I'm competing in the fan leagues. Daggers. I'm thinking to myself, okay, so who was it on this day? On Monday was a PTA, and then on Tuesday Wes Anderson directed the next film. What happened? I don't know. It's a tough category, but made it through it. We get into round 3. Things start to heat up.
So listen, let's get into round 3. It's all on you, Daggers, because you're behind by 3. You get your 2 pointer, director of Spaceballs, Robin Hood Men in Tights, Mel Brooks. Boom.
Another
3
easy
point.
one.
Another giveaway, right, Daggers?
The 3 point comes into the category of Tom Hanks, the FBI agent in 2012.
This one almost threw me.
you pull it at the last second. Catch me if you can. Boom. 3 points in the bag. How confident were you, or was this just kind of floating in the head?
I honestly couldn't pull it at all, and then I was just like, well, say something, and I was trying to think what was even the question, and I remembered I'm like FBI agent something, and I knew the year, and I'm like, was he in that? Fuck it, just throw it out, hope for the best, and then there it was. I haven't seen that one since I saw it theatrically, but I hadn't seen it again since then, so the memory was just, I guess, super back there, not really well, but it paid off, so I'll take it.
Well, this is it. So that kind of puts you back in the lead. You're 17-15 up. It's back to Haddad. His 2 pointer, Matt and Ben. Affleck is what basketball coach the way back. The 3 pointers, Denzel Washington. Denzel and Tony Scott have worked 5 times. Name 2. Boom, boom. Hits that. Then it's kind of back on you on this 2010s 5 pointer.
This is who played me. I was thinking of the wrong fucking movie.
This is what I want to come to. It's Jordan Turner in 2013's The Call. Who plays it? And you say out loud, I can see his name.
So I don't even know the name of the movie that I'm picturing, but it's some, he's like black-haired dude. I don't even know his name now. I should have looked at what it was, but he's in things, got a real generic face you could hate, and it's the same type of situation. He's on a 911 call, or he takes a call, and it's him all alone in a dark office, and shit's going down or whatever. And I didn't see that movie. I saw the trailer though, and I didn't see the 911 one with Halle Berry either, so that one wasn't even on my radar. But yeah, that was embarrassing. It wouldn't have mattered because I was like thinking the wrong movie did not hurt me because I didn't see the right movie, so I wouldn't have got that pull anyway. But it was frustrating to like I can see it, I can't see it, I didn't see it at all.
I think only 2 people in the world saw that movie, The Call, with Halle Berry, but whatever.
I did see that trailer though, but it wasn't even in my whatever. I think we reviewed that on our channel like way back in the day, like the trailer for that movie. So, but it wasn't that wasn't gonna happen. So like. Whatever, I lost, and I was like, I could repeat again and again, but what's it gonna do for me? I know it's not there. Like you give a kindergartner some high school math, and they're not gonna get it. Give them a million years, it's not gonna matter. So I was like, let me just give it up. Let me not waste the people's time.
So listen, Haddad takes the W, 2017 overall. I think that there's still a lot of like good points here for yourself to kind of pick up on. Yes, you got 3 points in round 1, but you rallied in round 2. You went, as I said, you held your throw, you got 8 for 8, you took a steal, you hit your 2 and your 3, you forced him to rally back at you. There's still a lot like of positives to take out from my opinion based on your performance.
Thank you. I think the only thing I regret is not losing. It's that he won, and I think it would have been so funny to beat him after all his like little I'm superior. I do theater. I'm Tony nominated. Like and just him going I lost to an idiot. Like it would have been great.
I lost to the owner of a video store who actually watches movies.
Like definitely, and I'm not saying I would do anything differently. Like I don't know how one trains for these things. Like there's unlimited movies to watch, and I think almost to a detriment to myself, I watch too many movies, and at least half of which I watch will never be featured on this show. So like there's just so much garbage in my brain. Will I definitely give it my all? Of course. Would I crack a book? Probably not.
Andrew, talk to me. 2017, Haddad gets the W eventually, but as I said, strong showing by Daggers all the same.
Very well handled. Again, I love the attitude, Daggers, that you had in the matchup. You are behind, you're playing in a tough situation, and you don't let it get to you. You're just having a good time out there. And normally in the third round, especially on a 5-point question, I would be the guy who was harping on the competitor. I would be saying, you have repeats, you have JTs, you've got to use them, get all the time that you can. But you know what? It was clear from what you said verbally, from the way you were acting, from everything that happened, you did not have the answer. I appreciate that you're willing to accept that, step back like Troy Zan Robertson in Game Changers and say, I'm just not going to win this one. Congratulations to you. I had a great time being here. Gotta love that attitude. I gotta love the way you played this match because you did handle yourself very well. And I think really the difference in this matchup, it does look like it's kind of tight, a few points at the end, but the difference in this matchup is all that round one. You got unlucky. Yeah. You had some bad questions, some ones that just weren't there in your brain. And no matter how good you are at movie trivia, no matter if you're William Bibbiani, there are questions that you will miss. There are things that will not be in your head, and there are moments when something you know just slips away from you. Overall, a well-played match. I would have loved to see it be a little more competitive, and I think 2 or 3 more points in round one would have done that. But well handled by both. And congratulations to you, Maxwell Haddad. Let's hope you can keep it up to this level of competition because anything less will be a disappointment based on the hype you put out for yourself before your match. Keep competing, keep showing up, and I will sing your praises. But I got to see more from you before I get there.
Ryan, Haddad calls out John Roca for one, but secondarily calls out Robert Montano in his post-match interview. How do you think that would go if the two guys matched up?
Well, first of all, I think there would be great matches, either way, whether he's going up against Montano, who's going to win that match anyway, and Roca, who may or may not win. It depends on the day. Plus, Roca, I don't know if you're going to be around for much longer. I think your career is going down the tubes a little bit, Outlaw. Look, I was a fan of you when you won the world title from Dan Murrell a couple years back, but nowadays, I don't know, Roca. I don't think so. But either way, those matches between him and Haddad would be great, but at the same time, Haddad, you've been here how long? 1 day. How long have you been on camera? 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Take a breath. Take a sip of your drink, your water, your $1,000 whiskey. I don't care what it is you got in the background. Take a breath. You've been here for 15 minutes. Let's wait a while before you start calling out some of the biggest dogs in this yard, including Robert Montano, which, by the way, Montano, you're going to be a future world champion. I know it because late to the party is, you're perfect. But yeah, he shouldn't have done it. I mean, it's okay if you want to call him out, but it's not going to happen. Like, stop trying to make your own matches happen, Haddad. It's not going to happen.
I think CB, finishing up on this match, I think for Daggers, potentially a nice opponent for him next would be maybe Iman Frost. Whereas for Haddad, I'm thinking maybe David Campbell. That might be a nice kind of like toe-to-toe. I think the promos and that could be quite spicy.
Dynasty's going to win that one anyway, though.
He is.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think especially for Maxwell, David Campbell. Obviously, Campbell's got the one win, and he had the unfortunate defeat to Nick Harley in the number one contender match. But ability-wise, it seems like they've got like this. They're on the sort of the same wavelength. It could be an exciting match to go into the next phase of competition. And yeah, for Just Daggers, Iman Frost would be a good one because she handled herself pretty well in her first match. It was against it was Gerald, I believe, wasn't it?
It was, Bertoli,
Gerald Bertolia's first match, and she lost, but Gerald has proven himself to be a bit of a beast in this game. You know, he's missed a question, I think, but only a round 2 question in 2 matches. So Imon, she did quite well, and I think that'd be a nice even fair match between Just Daggers and Imon. So it's me. I would like to see whether Brad and the powers that be decide that's the way they want to go. Who knows? But hopefully they let us know before Friday when we record, so we can talk about it.
Give us a heads up, people.
Listen, I think if we can do Brad and PLD's job for them, then they don't need to do it. So listen, there you go.
Exactly, yeah. So that's it. They're the matches that are coming.
So listen, let's move into the main event of FCL 10. Chris Adams, Alana Jordan. Alana Jordan, we know from Elena. I'm Irish, okay? It's the accent.
You're Irish.
I saw how it was spelled. I said it the same way.
So Elena Jordan, who we know from a previous 5-way in the Inner Geekdom in the movie True Schmoedown in season 5, which was won by Jared Habon. Chris Adams, that we know, he is the brother of Robert Adams, the other half of the Sin Fanatics, playing this gentleman character. It is based off a wrestling character from the past. We know this from the interview that Chris did with Vernon and Nancy on a fan's view of the FCL this week. We move into round 1 of these guys. Again, it's the same categories as we're seeing for Daggers and Haddad. We're getting new releases again. We're getting mystery thriller and we're getting crime as new kind of categories in this round 1. It ends 6-3 for Adams. The first new releases, the Frances McDormand No Man Land question. Jordan misses that one. She misses the director of Forrest Gump Polar Express, Robert Zemeckis. They both go 3 for 3 in their next one. Cher Horowitz and Clueless, Alicia Silverstone. What year did The Last Jedi, Thor Ragnarok, come out in 2017? And who played James T. Kirk in Star Trek 2009, Chris Pine? Then Alana goes 0 for 3. Andrew, goes 0 for 3 in her last 3, which is the 90s question, which is the 97 Fincher movie starring Michael Douglas and Sean Penn. The Game, the mystery thriller movie. They both missed this one, which is a 2016 movie based on a Paula Hawkins novel starring Emily Blunt, Rebecca Ferguson, and Luke Evans, Girl on the Train. And then they both missed the Henry Hill in Goodfellas, Ray Liotta. 6-3 to Adams. I think the nerves got to Jordan, in my opinion. Andrew, what were your thoughts on round 1 of this?
I gotta say, I gotta agree with you on a lot of what was said there. Elena is an interesting competitor, and as you know, if you've listened to my intros to this show, I love a good pun. But I said before, normally I'd rag on a competitor for not using their JTAs, little strategic problems, and this is where I might just have to do that because Elena really outplayed herself. There's some nerves, obviously, first time under the lights, but she didn't write down answers when she thought she knew them, and she would have gotten them. She wrote down the director at least close to the correct name and spelling, and she knew what she was going to say. Had she turned her board around and said Zemeckis, I think maybe she gets the point. I'm not saying you have to be a perfect strategist at all times, but what I'm saying is Elena, in this first round, I think she gave up 2 points, and that's kind of sad to see. In the end, that puts her in a much worse situation moving out of the round. If I was Elena, I would be very happy with how the character is getting across, but I might be a little bit worried about that exact kind of, I don't know, like brain mist settling over me and not being able to do that. My advice, if I had any for her as a competitor, which I really don't, I'll preface that. I don't know what I'm talking about any more than you do, but maybe throw out a JTE in the first round. Take a breath, take a moment. Don't let it all get to you too much. Yes, you're out there competing. Yes, you want to do well. And yes, you only have 15 seconds to answer that question. So remove those concerns. Take your time. Take the full 15 seconds before anything is answered. Remember to use a JTE if you need it, because making a point in round 1 is better than having an unused JTE in round 3. I think there's some mistakes in play, mostly forgivable due to a new competitor debuting. But overall, that was my biggest takeaway in this round. Chris Adams comports himself very, very well here. I think he handled himself well. I think he also had a miss or 2 in this round where I think if he'd taken his time, he could have got it. So overall, my opinion of round 1 is good personalities, decent performance from both competitors, but I think both of them were within inches of another point or 2 on their board, and they could have gotten them if they tried.
Daggers, I'm naming out movies here. I'm naming out No Man Land. I'm naming out Robert Zemeckis. I'm naming
That
out
was one of the only
Clueless.
newer movies I knew, and I was like, oh, I couldn't have got that one in my 20. Come on.
I was just going to ask, how do you reckon you would have done in this round one?
Across the board in their question sequence was a lot more things that I was like, oh yes, this is more my kind of movie. This would have been a thing. Like, I consider myself a movie guy, and I got a lot more film questions, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
And not that I don't appreciate a good film, but like, I like schlock more than I like high art for sure. But like, I thought that, that round had some questions I would prefer, but like, again, it's always gonna be random. You're never gonna get the same ones, this and that. I remember like, they'd asked me to do one match, like whatever, and I couldn't get off of work no one was there to work for me to do that shift, so I missed it, and so I got to see what match. I'm like, I would have had these questions. Shit. And that would have been a lot better. But you're never gonna know what you know until you know.
Future FCL World Champion Ryan Permason, how'd you get on round one?
Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, as far as round one, probably would have been the same thing as the previous match. Probably 5, maybe 6 out of 8, because the Nomad Land with Francis McDormand, is that what it was? Never, once again, would not have gotten that. New releases, I need to brush up on those. Sorry, Hollywood, but the pandemic kind of ruined my appetite for certain new releases. Sorry, I was busy. But outside of that, yeah, one of the 2 other questions probably would have missed those. But other than that, still go around. I mean, despite what the score says, this was an entertaining match through and through, for sure. You got, what's his name, the gentleman from the Kingsman coming in the door with an umbrella and a vest and a tie and all that. And then you got is it Elena? Am I saying that right, Elena? Okay, cool. So Elena comes in with like this 80s, I want to work out, go to the gym kind of vibe with the hair, with the hairdo and the sweatshirt, the hoodie, and the tie-dye colors flying everywhere. So this was an entertaining match through and through. But yeah, round one, despite what the score says, I was entertained.
Sometimes that's all we ask for. So listen, let's move into round 2. Chris, we've kind of spoken the last few weeks about this idea of people who are coming into the FCL as what we would perceive as inner geekdom players, who are maybe looking to kind of like cut out maybe 5-6 points, hit an IG slice in round 2 and see how the numbers kind of lie out in round 3. This seems to be kind of what Jordan's strategy is, potentially. She gets spinner's choice, which, and I'm going to drop another little nugget, there's been 55 spins in the FCL this season, 8 of which have been spinner's choice, for a 14% hit ratio on spinner's choice in the FCL this year so far. She takes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, goes 8 for 8. She's kind of like on the fence as to whether to go Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Jurassic Park. Looks to kind of want to switch that, but then takes Turtles 8 for 8. What did you make of her round?
It was a great round, I mean, for me, like, this is kind of my wheelhouse. Like, Jurassic Park's my favorite movie of all time. If she'd have gone for that, I'm convinced I would have smashed that one. Turtles, I thought, if the question comes out who voiced Donatello, I know it's Corey Feldman. And I thought, I hope that question comes out because I'm going to feel smart knowing that. And then obviously she got it as well because who knows, like Corey Feldman, well, maybe everyone knew that, but for me, it's good. But yeah, no, she did very well, and it does make sense, obviously, because she has her only previous Schmoedown match. One match she had was in the Inner Geekdom division, where we said that it was against a 5-way with Taylor Robinson, Jared Hayron, Dorian Parks, I believe, and
wow, that match was so long ago. I don't even remember Elena being in that match.
And and obviously I've seen her before with Mike Karnowski and Roxy on DC Movie News. That's the only really other place I've seen her before. So I would have thought she would have maybe held out for the Inner Geekdom division, but she went for this obviously normal singles division, and obviously these categories were up her wheelhouse, and she did very well, which you can't ask for anything more than that. She got the questions, she got them all right. So what more can she do? And it did a great job of pulling some of those points back that she lost in that first round, which I do tend to agree with Andrew. Maybe the character slightly overtook the gameplay more than anything else. Not as much as what was it, the Kingsman and Devon Stewart, that was a bit of a mess, but maybe the couch overtook slightly, and she kind of was focusing more on writing puns on the board than actually taking the time to think about what the answers were. But no, this was a great second round. She pulled it back and gave us an exciting third round.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're moving into Adam's spin. First spin is musicians and films. Says no. Spins again. It's 2000s. Again, he goes 8 for 8 as well. He does this thing, this holding your throat, this idea that I'm trying to get across of like holding your spin, making sure that you get maximum, making sure you get maximum value out of what your category is. 2006, Pan's Labyrinth director Guillermo del Toro. Jack Campbell in Family Man, played by Nick Cage. 2009 war movie with Brad Pitt. Christoph Waltz in Glorious Bastards, and then the 2007 neo-Western crime starring Josh Brolin, No Country for Old Men. It's 14-11. Andrew, what were your thoughts overall in round 2?
A pretty good wheel round. Both competitors do very well with the categories that they get. They go solid. They play strong. I mean, the truth is there's not a lot to say here, although I will say one thing, and this goes out to you, Mr. Chris Adams. You are a gentleman. And when you deferred your spin to your opponent, you said that I would not be a gentleman if I did not defer. But like Keith just said, and like I've said on this very program many weeks in a row, letting your opponent know what information they need, giving them that information is the gentlemanly thing to do. If you were a real gentleman, you would have had your round first. You would have let your opponent go second so she could see exactly how many points she needed. She could know if she could check the multiple choice. She could know when it's the right thing to do to not get a question right or to not take multiple choice. The more information you have, the more powerful you are. So you say you're being a gentleman, Chris Adams, but really, I think what you're being is a smart player. So kudos to you for that, but I don't know, this gentleman thing is just not working for me. Big tweener energy out of Chris Adams in this match for me.
Daggers, you're hearing a lot of us talk about the strategy of like spin first, spin, don't first, multiple choice, maybe don't multiple choice. What do you make of, like, if you're in the lead, should you go first, should you go second? Where do you kind of stand on it, and what would you do?
I didn't think about it too much, and I don't even remember. Did I get deferred? I got deferred too, right?
You got deferred too, yeah.
For me, I get it's all kind of the same. If you like some categories and don't like some categories, it's going to come up. Like, I guess there's a bonus if you go second. There's one less category, but if you like that category, there's one less category you like too. I really, I guess I just don't. To me, there's no real. I could care less. Who goes first, who goes second, because there's always going to be some you like, some you don't. I love the wheel that the second round had. I was like, oh, I would have rather been on that wheel. That wheel was great, and like it ended up working out for me. So again, no complaints, but. There were a lot more things there that I'm like, oh, these are some fun categories. Her switch, or wanting to switch from her, she got the pick, and she picked Ninja Turtles, and then almost switched to Jurassic Park, and I'm like, what the hell does that tell me? I have no idea what that means. Like, which one did she pick? I don't know. And that's like a dangerous play, I think. Like, you're like, all right, because she or maybe last minute she's like, oh, maybe the thing I picked wasn't as like, it's weird, but it played for her, it worked, but that could have been a real dangerous move. Like, you assume she would have picked the one that she wanted on the wheel the most, to then defer to Jurassic Park, which, who doesn't love Jurassic Park? Obviously a great film.
Yeah, the first one is, the sequels never happened, but yeah.
Oh, I like the sequels
I'm interested in this new one. Like, I like the shorts that they put out. I think that there's something there, and the idea that's been floated out that there might be a crossover between Fast and the Furious and Jurassic Park.
Oh my God! Please don't.
I would pay all the money. All the money. I want to see that.
That would break all sorts of continuity.
I don't care. I love it. It's going to be them. They have to get it into an 18-wheeler and ship it somewhere, but someone else wants it, and they got to fight this guy. Oh, I need it. I need it all over.
I thought they already confirmed that Fast 10 was going to be Fast 10 in space. I thought they already confirmed that.
With dinosaurs.
No, not with dinosaurs. It's just they're going out into space, like Moon River.
Well, they got to get that little, the can into space so that they can properly separate the nucleus or something.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Alright, listen, FCL, right?
Yeah, who cares about Universal Pictures and their weirdo ideas about continuity?
Yeah, so it's 14-11 to Adams coming into round 3. Jordan hits her 2-pointer. Your favorite movie, Unbreakable, comes back up again. Daggers, unfortunately. Night Shyamalan, David Dunn in Unbreakable, Bruce Willis. The 3-pointer is in comedies, the 85 mystery comedy with Mrs. Plum and whatnot. Clue is the answer. Boom. Comes back onto Adams. And then there's a little bit of panic that kind of hits in with Chris Adams here. The horror question, his 2-pointer, the director of the 76 movie, Carrie, he says Wes Craven. It's not. It's Brian De Palma. Then you get this 3-pointer, fantasy sci-fi 2008, Freddie Highmore as twins. Few more context pieces. The Spiderwick Chronicles, misses that. In between all this, Brad's internet drops out and we kind of lose him. Steph has to kind of, steady the ship for the rest of the match. Adams's 5 comes in Action Adventures, Last Chance Saloon, the 99 Troy Duffy movie starring Willem Dafoe with the Russian gangsters, the answer being Moondog Saints, hits the 5-point, big sigh of relief. And then it's all on Jordan for her 5 scores and soundtracks. The last movie scored by James Horner, which came out in 2016. The answer is The Magnificent Seven. She doesn't get it. And your winner, Chris Adams, just about. I do believe that. I think that it got to Adams a little bit, being in the moment, being finally playing in the Schmoedown or Schmoedown adjacent. That was my own opinion. Chris, what was your opinion?
I think it was it's a decent round 3. You can see Chris, I think he struggled, didn't he? Like you said, he kind of, I think maybe the same thing that Andrew and myself have said about Elena's big personality and the big thing, it kind of got to him a little bit. He was trying not to concentrate on her and laugh, and that's where I think it just kind of, question-wise, I didn't know any of the answers myself, so I can't really judge him on that. But I just think, he's taught the game, and I think he's got the knowledge. And he knows he knew these answers, but I do think the showmanship from Elena was did get to him. So that's how it was. And but he pulled out the win in the end, and I'm looking forward to see where he goes next. I'm hoping it's Adams versus Adams.
2 big 5s, Ryan, at this, the action adventure and the scores and soundtracks. How do you reckon you would have gotten on in the heat of battle?
I'll be honest with you. I knew both of those 5s. The Boondock Saints, that movie comes up a lot in the MTS, so I definitely would have gotten that. And then also the Posthumously with James Horner. By the way, James Horner, rest in peace, good sir, one of the greatest composers of all time. And The Magnificent Seven, I know not a lot of people talk about that movie. They kind of throw it under the bus. I like that movie, okay? And I thought the score was pretty darn good for a man who had passed away before it even came out. So my hat's off to you, good people at The Magnificent Seven 2016. Denzel, what's up, playa? So, yeah, I definitely would have gotten both 5s. I feel so bad for Elena. I was like, Elena, it's Magnificent Seven. I'm trying to telepathically, send you the answer, but you're not hearing me, girl. You're not hearing me. But at the same time, look, those 2 5-pointers, you can come at it either way. But at the end of the day, great match had by all. So entertaining to watch. You got Chris as the Kingsman wannabe. You got Elena as the 80s, I want to exercise all day girl, hanging out and being awesome-tacular. She's a 90s kid. That's why she took TMNT, because we 90s kids know what's up. Because Ninja Turtles is awesome no matter what you say. So I'm proud of both competitors. It was a fun, great, entertaining match, and I look forward to seeing both of them come back, and they're going to come back even bigger, faster, and stronger than before. But Elena, we want you on the show. We want you on the show. We love your personality. I like what's going down with your character. I dig it 1,000%. So, Elena, I know you're watching this at home. We cannot wait to see you on a future episode of This Week in the FCL. Chris CB, put it in your notes. Put it in the docket. Make me happy like Elliot, or Dewberry. Make it happen. Back to you.
I mean, I CB, there you go. You've just been told what to do next.
Yeah.
But Andrew, there's a lot that goes on in round 3, and we lose Brad. I think that a lot of props have to go to Steph Sabra for holding this all together at the end.
Yeah. Obviously, I have a brief bit of experience with the technical side of things when it comes to a movie trivia league. I did have a period of time where I spent some time doing that, and I know how difficult these technical glitches can be. They do happen to everybody, and we love the FCL, so we want to see it succeed on the highest level. We know when these things happen, it's not good for anybody involved, but PLD, Steph Sabra. I mean, Steph, you still don't like Geminis. I'm a little mad about that, but you both did a fantastic job. Steph, you come into your own more each and every week, and I am loving the work you were doing on the desk. PLD stepping up to make it happen. And as far as the questions in round number 3, I mean, I thought it was a good round, and being a poor 80s kid when, TMNT premiered on television as a cartoon and exploded into the popular culture, and the comics were being released by Eastman and Laird. We don't know anything about TMNT. Once again,
no, I watched the reruns of the animated series, and I bought the VHS tapes that had the Burger King Kids Club on the top part of the VHS tape boxes. I remember those days.
So definitely, I would not have got any of the questions in it. I mean, TMNT, just not by style, not by speed. We can move on from that one. Elena, we would love to have you on the show. As Mr. Adams, we would love to have you. Come on.
Oh yes, both.
Bring it on. Let's see it.
Do it.
And I will say about Adams, with a win, well-handled win here. Nobody played perfectly, but he did have a good matchup. I would love to see something between the Adams. Clearly, they're building to it. Clearly, they want Chris and Robert to go head-to-head.
Oh, yeah.
I think Robert needs another win under his belt first. So hopefully that's something we'll see in the near future. But if not, Chris is off to a very good start. Elena brought so much character to this, and I think I've said this before too. If you're coming in for your first matchup and you're worried about whether you're going to get all the questions right, if you think that's what you need to succeed, you have to be an 8 out of 8 in round number 1, an 8 out of 8 in round number 2, and all 3 questions in round number 3. If that's what you think you need to do to succeed in this league, I will tell you that that's not always the case. For those coming in, remember that character matters. If you're a big personality, if you look good on camera, if you can talk and throw barbs at your opponent like our wonderful guest today did in his matchup, sometimes that's just as important. You've got to be out there and get that character, because if nobody cares about your character, they won't care how many points you get in the match. If they do care about your character, then they don't care how many points you got in the match, and you're coming back. So get out there, do your best, have some fun with it, and just like everybody else in the FCL, I know Brad would say this, I know Steph would say this, just keep it classy and have a good time. That's what they did in this matchup. I like both of them. I can't wait to see more from either of these competitors. In all honesty, I thought this week, both matches as a whole. Sometimes we have very high scoring matches, and maybe I'm not as excited about seeing a return from the competitors. This week, we saw some misses, we saw some stumbles, and we saw some problems. But every single one of the 4 competitors that competed this week, I want to see you back sooner rather than later. Great job, well handled by all of them. And Elena, JTs exist.
Daggers,
I thought she won. I thought a lot. I threw my headset
So did she.
off. I threw my headset off when he was there, not knowing Boondock Saints. I'm like, well, fuck this guy, and I left. And I then realized he came back and got the answer. And I was like, oh, she's got this. I don't know what her number is, but if you don't know Boondock Saints, you've lost the game. Let's just keep going. And then when I found out he won, I'm like, oh. All right, I'm that guy who left in the last inning because my team's down. I'm like, I just want to get out of here and not deal with the traffic. And then he won.
Did you know the posthumous James Horner question though, Daggers?
I didn't even hear it. I was not in the game anymore.
Okay, I was just curious if you were able to hear that question up, but it's all good, man. It's all good.
I've seen that movie, so there was certainly a good chance.
Yeah,
and I also like that one.
Yeah, it's a good film. I mean, look, you came good with the best, and you had the better set of you and your competitor. You had a great set. You live, eat, sleep, and breathe in a video store. How many people can say
everything
I have
is better than Maxwell, but
Yeah, but still, how many people can say I have my own video store as not only my background, but I live in it.
Nowadays, not many. Physical media is definitely going out for most people. Amazon is stopping.
But not for guys like you and me. Not for guys like you and me. Physical media exists. It's for life. That's what physical media is.
How many movies you got, if I can ask, Ryan? Do you know what your numbers are?
Do I know my number? I wish I did. I think it's in the 400s. Maybe 5.
You're a baby. Call me in a couple years.
Thank you. Yeah, you can bring on the reconnaissance where he says.
I think I've got maybe 2,500 horror movies in this room.
That is great. Horror is not one of my favorite genres, but I respect it, and I do have my favorites. Just not as many as you.
This just happens to be my horror room just because how it fit. But I got the action comedies, another one. I got my dramas. I got this and that. Anime is. I try to segregate it all. Not everything is beautifully alphabetized, but it's the A's are together, the B's are together. I'm a lazy guy.
I just keep mine in storage containers, bro.
But once again, I'm going to say FCL. Let's get back to the FCL.
Yeah, what are we talking about, Daggers? Huh? What are we talking about? We're talking about the FCL.
FCL.
Yeah,
Guys,
we can
guys,
save
I can
this one.
settle this. I can settle this whole thing right now. Everybody, we're gonna have a sleepover and movie night at Daggers' house. Okay?
Yeah.
Are you happy now?
As soon as we can travel on our way.
Yeah,
Listen.
CB, make it happen.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think Chris is responsible for that, Ryan. I mean,
Yes, sir. He takes up all the, he has the financial responsibilities. He has money. He can help us
because
out.
if he's paying for plane tickets, I mean, Daggers, you're a wonderful guy. We just met. I like you quite a bit already. But CB, if you're buying plane tickets, I got some tropical vacation spots I want to go to.
Boom.
So listen,
Yeah.
Adams 1916 gets the job done. Let's see
Great
what happens in the future. And more importantly, let's look forward to what's coming up next week in the FCL.
So coming up next week in the FCL, we have another set of wonderful, awesome, spectacular matches coming your way. We have Mr. Calvin Klein. No, wait a minute, that's not right. But Klein is going up against Mr. Fishburne. And then you got, in the main event, you got Shadowbosh versus Galago. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing those names right. If I'm butchering those, I apologize to our fellow competitors out there. But these two matches, FCL 11 is heating up. It looks good. You got Calvin Klein going up against Mr. Fishburne. You got Shadowbosh going up against Galago. We've seen some of these competitors before. They're coming back. Some are making their debut. No matter how you slice and dice it, it's like Baskin Robbins, 31 flavors. There's always going to be something for somebody. So at the end of the day, I'm looking forward to seeing how some of these new competitors do, as well as some of the veterans. Andrew, what are your thoughts on these two matches upcoming in FCL 11?
Well, I love to see a debut. We've got a few new competitors coming in, and it's always good to see what they have for us. Of course, we do have one returnee coming in this week, and that is going to be interesting, coming off of a loss before he comes back into the matchup. So obviously looking to rebound, but his opponent coming in fresh is looking to get that first victory and move him down to 0-2. Ultimately, as with all rookies, we don't always know what the strengths are going to be. We don't always know where they're going to come from, but the opportunity abounds. New characters, new matchups, new feuds, everything coming our way, and we'll see how many points they score, whether they impress us, whether they do know the strategy, defer to your opponent, hold your throw, all these things we've been talking about. I want to see a This Week in the FCL reference, guys. Sneak it onto the screen. Brad won't know. But in the end, I know what it's going to be is what it's been every week so far for the first 10. That's going to be exciting. That's going to be a whole lot of movie trivia fun. I can't wait. Every week in the FCL is a great week, but some new faces is always something I'm glad to see.
Absolutely. The numbers, man. Keith, who likes to talk about this game known as darts that only 2.5 people play anymore because those were a thing in the 90s, but maybe not so much now in 2021. But I digress. Numbers, dude. Keith, what do you got for us?
Well, first off, the winner of last year's Darts World Championship got $250,000, so it's big bucks these days, Ryan. So it is. But listen, going back to FCL again, Klein v Fishburne. Klein is an absolute ghost on social media. I cannot find anything about him at all, so I don't know what to expect. I could be seeing the next Adam Collins, or I could be seeing the other end of the spectrum completely. Fishburne is a guy based on his Twitter. He seems to be very much a comedy, fantasy sci-fi guy. So I would be interested to see if taking fantasy sci-fi, he goes kind of like deeper. Maybe does he go like a Star Trek? Does he go like a Star Wars as a specific kind of slice? In terms of the main event, Chattelbash and Galago, they're 2 0-1 fighters. Both need a win. One of them's going to get it. I keep saying that Chattelbash is the best fighter in the FCL with a 0-1 record. Apologies, Dagger. I know you're with us at the moment. I do think that Tom is the better player of the two of these guys. Galago to me is a guy who I don't see is going to go perfect in round 1. I think he's going to give you a chance in round 2 and he's going to slip up somewhere in round 3. So on that basis that Chattelbash had a solid game against Vanessa, I give him the edge over Galago.
Absolutely. Sounds good to me. Anyhow, you know what? Let's go to our special guest, Daggers. What do you got on these two matches, my man?
Well, I know nothing about either of these people, these groups. I'd probably vote for the guy in the glasses just because he looks fun.
That's some good facial hair.
Is that Klein or is that Fishburne?
That would be Fishburne.
That's
Yeah, all right,
Fishburne.
I'm rooting for Fishburne, and I'll go for. I could flip a coin on this one. One guy's black and white, and the other guy's normal looking. I guess I'll go black and white.
That would be Shadowbash.
Shadowbash.
You think he's good at
Shadowbash,
classic
yeah.
movies being black and white?
It could be a sickness. I don't want to assume anything.
Yeah, yes, those could happen either way in either match. I don't know, but Daggers, thank you so much for your $5,000 opinion. We appreciate it. Appreciate that on this $5 million show. But the guy behind the curtain that just loves to talk for some weird reason, CB, what do you got on these 4 competitors?
I don't love to talk enough to have a lot to say about Klein and Fishburne because I know little to nothing about the pair of them. But they are. I'm excited. Like I've always said, when we started this show and when the FCL started, I one of the things that excites me about the whole thing is all the new faces we've got coming in. Like our guest today, Just Daggers. Right, he was a new face, someone I wasn't familiar with, but they're coming in, and it's just good to see what these, what their knowledge is and their ability when it comes to the movie trivia. But more importantly, for me at least, what their characters like. So at least Fishburne looks like he's going to be a bit of a character. He might not. He could be throwing me completely off. And Klein, no idea who he is, but and as Keith said, he's a bit of a ghost. As far as Chattelbash and Gallagher go, it's a competition that just made sense, really. They're both their games, their first games. I think Gallagher, he lost to Montano. Right? And Chattelbash lost to Fitzsimmons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Both have late to the party, so it just makes sense that these two will go against each other. And both of them played very well in those games as well. They weren't a million miles away from pulling something off in those games. So it's a competition that makes sense. And they're definitely with another game under their belt, I can see them really improving. And obviously one of these guys are going to have a W under their name. So they're both a pair that I can see starting to push on and going against these. The ones you like to say, like the bigger boys in the competition when it comes like the Harley and the Campbell and the Fitzsimmons and Montano, I think these guys they're probably just the bracket below, but whoever gets the win out of this is going to be pushing themselves a lot closer.
Well, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens with FCL 11 next week when we talk about this week in the FCL.
Outro?
Yeah, just the outro now, buddy.
Okay. All right, well, it's another week down and all that action we've talked about, some great matches, some great competitors, and he may not have gotten a win in his first matchup, but he certainly made us feel like winners by joining us here today. Let's start things off by telling you about everything we've got going on and where you can find people with our special guest, Just Daggers. Where can everybody find you online?
You can go to www.cannibal.video and you'll see a weekly review every Friday. This week's review, we had special guest Debbie Rashawn on. If you're a fan of horror, Scream Queen herself. We talked about the movie The Thing, which everyone likes, but you can hear us talk about it. If you want to pick up some merch, you can go to www.cannibalvideo.com. And I'm Just Daggers on everything.
He is Just Daggers, and he's been a wonderful guest. Thank you so much. First time anybody's ever recommended I watch Cannibal videos, and I seriously considered it. So we'll take a look at that one.
Don't Google it. Go to the direct link. Advice.
That's some good advice right there. That's right. So, Mr. Daggers, thank you. I'm sorry, Just Daggers, thank you so much once again for joining us. And, of course, we've got our super crew here, super producer, Chris Barnes. Where are you online?
I am at ChrisBarnes_UK on Twitter and the Movie Barnes on Instagram. And mainly this week, FCL on Twitter as well. Tweeting from there. And that's pretty much it. Ryan, what about you?
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me once again. This was a fun show, as every week that I'm on here is. Plus, when I'm on here, the ratings go skyrocketing. But with Just Daggers, they're going to go up tenfold because he's the man of the week anyway. So with me, and that being said, with all due respect, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. Check me out on YouTube at It's Neuroculture and follow us on all forms of social media at It's Neuroculture. New videos being dropped each and every week. Check out my podcast. It's called The Nerdcast. I review some of the latest movies I've had a chance to see. I just celebrated 100 episodes on Anchor. So check it out. Do yourself a favor. Treat yourself. And also, I'm going to be dropping my 30th episode of And I Quote this week and talking with independent writer, publisher, and all-around awesome guy known as Brian K. Morris from Nevermind the Furthermore. So check that out on Saturdays. That show is live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Please keep that in mind. And if you're not sure what time it is in your area, it's called Check Your Local Listings. It's very easy to do on the internet, folks. But other than that, I'll just be here, as a part of This Week in the FCL because these guys are cool. Anyway, that's where you can find me. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Wow, the hardest working man on this panel for sure. Sounds like you've got a ton going on, Ryan. Congratulations on your big milestones and all the work that you do. Guys, make sure to check him out. And of course, we have our stats man himself. Not my favorite co-host, but definitely my co-host, Keith Kilduff. Where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @KKilduff Media. You can also check out me on the Opening Pair YouTube podcast channel. We reviewed 2011's Moneyball there this week, so that is where my love of stats met my love of sports, and it was amazing to get into. So please check that out, and also check out this channel. I did an amazing 1 hour interview with the great Paul Denuzio from the First Class League. He is the executive producer, so please do check that out also.
I did get a chance to check that one out myself a little while ago, Keith, and I got to say, what a great interview. Paul Denuzzo, great information about how the league runs as hosted by you. You know I don't like you very much, but I got to give you props on this one. That's a great one. You can, of course, check out any one of our Spotlight series. I sat down to talk to Andrew Furtado. Ryan got the chance to talk to Vanessa and Robert from Late to the Party, and, of course, Keith with Paul Denuzzo, as mentioned. Thank you once again for joining us. I am the Elk. You can find me online at Kelk Andrew. This is This Week in the FCL. We are available on YouTube. Do all that social media stuff. Smash that like button, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. If you like FCL content, hey, we're not the only show out there, and we share the love around here. Check out a fan's view of the FCL. They're available. But of course, if you want more from us, you don't just have to see us on YouTube. You can check us out on your favorite podcast feed. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff. Check that one out. Leave us some comments, some likes. And if you do leave a comment, we'll check that out. Maybe we'll shout you out on the next show because we want to interact with all you out there, hear what you think of what we think. And we'll be back to think a whole lot more next week on This Week in the FCL.